She walked through his front gate at 2 in the morning wearing his dead wife's face, with the daughter he had buried 14 months ago clutching her hand. And that was only the beginning. Welcome back, besties. If you missed part 1, pause this video right now and go watch it. I will wait, because what happens in the next 90 minutes will not make sense without it. But here is the short version. A Korean mafia boss who buried his wife and his 3-year-old daughter in a single closed casket on a Tuesday in October opened his front gate one rainy autumn night and found a Black American woman standing on the other side. A gun at her back, blood on her trench coat, a small girl in a too big purple coat clutching her hand. The woman was the identical twin sister of his murdered wife. The little girl was alive, and the wife he had been mourning for 14 months, the love of his life, had not died the way the world thought she had. She had chosen. He thought, when the smoke cleared that first night, that he had finally finished what was started 14 months ago. He was wrong. A photograph arrived at sunrise the next morning that told him the man he had just buried in a koi pond was the smallest piece on a much bigger board. And the real enemy had been watching the whole time. So buckle up, besties, because part 2 is the part where every single rule he has ever lived by gets rewritten. Where the woman who walked through his gate at 2 in the morning is going to make him answer for who he was before her. Where a child is going to ask the question that no one in this house has been brave enough to answer for 14 months. Where the past comes back wearing a face he did not see coming. And where two people who were never supposed to meet are going to have to decide whether the love that should not exist is the only thing that can save what is left. If you are ready for that, and trust me, you are not, but you will be hit that like button right now. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Share this video with one friend who loves a Korean mafia romance. Just one. That is all I am asking. Now settle in. The white tiger is awake. And this time, he does not stop until everyone he loves is safe. Let's get into it. Aaliyah slept for 2 hours and 40 minutes. Taehyun did not move from the chair the entire time. He watched the door. He watched her chest rise and fall on the bed across the room. He watched the soft pink sunrise turn into the cleaner gold of full morning. And he thought, very simply, the same thought, over and over again. She is here. She is here. She is here. He did not know yet whether the thought was about his daughter, sleeping down the hall, or about the woman sleeping 10 feet in front of him. He chose, deliberately, not to look too closely at that. Whoever had sent that message had been watching her arrive at the airport with his daughter on her hip. They had professional surveillance contractors at Incheon at 4 o'clock the previous afternoon. They had access to information that should not have left the inside of 3 rooms. Which meant whoever had sent the message was not just bigger than Hwang Sung-min. They were inside Wang Jianhao's house. He picked the phone back up. He typed a second message to Min-ho, 2 floors below. East Wing. Now. Bring Captain Hong. Captain Hong was the only man in the Bikopa who had been raised in Beijing. He spoke flawless Mandarin. He had a brother in the Beijing triads who, unofficially, had been Wang Jianhao's personal driver for the last 11 years. Min-ho and Captain Hong came up at 7:28. Taehyun held out the phone. They read it twice. "This is not Wang's signature, sir," Captain Hong said flatly. "It is somebody inside his house. Somebody who wants to start a war between us. Then we are going to give Wang one chance to handle his own house." Taehyun walked to the window. He did not turn around. "Captain Hong, call your brother. Now. Tell him I am giving Wang Jianhao until 9 a.m. Beijing time to call me personally, to disclaim this message in his own voice. To deliver to my house, before sundown, the man who placed the device on the Mapo Bridge. Alive. With a confession. As a guarantee that no faction within his organization will ever again come for my family." He paused. "If the call does not come before 9, if the man is not at my gate by sundown, then by midnight tonight, the triads do not move freely through Korean waters. By the end of the week, Wang loses half his shipping operation. By the end of the month, he has lost every ally on this peninsula. Make sure he understands every single word. Yes, sir. Minho. Triple the perimeter. Brief Mrs. On quietly. Prep Zuri's panic room. If Wang refuses, we will be at war by lunch. Yes, sir. They left. Taehyun went back to the chair beside Aaliyah's bed. He folded his hands in his lap. He went back to watching the door. For the second time in 14 months, he was waiting for a phone call that would tell him whether the people he loved were going to live or die. The first time, the call had come in the form of a body. This time, he had decided very firmly it would not. She woke at 9:17. Aaliyah's eyes opened all at once. Her hand moved toward where the Glock had been on the side table before she remembered, mid-motion, that the side table was now beside his chair, not hers. She froze. Half sat up. Her eyes found him across the room. You didn't sleep. No. Her eyes moved past him to the side table beside his armchair. The phone there was lying face down. It had not been face down when she had gone to sleep at 5 a.m. Taehyun. What happened? He picked the phone up. He crossed the room. He sat down on the edge of the bed beside her. He turned the screen on. He held it out. She took it. She read what was on it. Twice. Her face did not change. When did it come? 7:23. Who? Somebody inside Wang Jianhao's house. Triad signature. Triad number. Not Wang's pattern. Somebody who wants to start a war between us. They think Wang is too soft to handle me. They want to handle me first. And what have you done about it? He told her. The deadline. The brother. The terms. When he finished, she was quiet for a long beat. Taehyun. That was the right call. He let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. And one thing to add. Before 9. Captain Hong's brother needs to tell Wang that my name is part of the disclaimer. By name. Aaliyah Carter. I want everyone inside that house, including the faction that took that photograph, to hear Wang say my name out loud and commit to my safety on his honor. So that nobody gets the idea that I am a problem they can quietly solve later. Taehyun nodded once. Done. He took the phone out again. He typed a short message to Captain Hong. He sent it. He set the phone on the side table beside her bed, within her reach as well as his. She did not say anything, but she did, after a moment, reach out and turn it deliberately face up, so they would both see it ring. They went downstairs. Mrs. On had made coffee. Zuri was on a tall stool in the kitchen with a bowl of rice porridge and a slightly purple-stained mouth from blueberries. Bongo was sitting upright beside her bowl. Bongo also had a small bowl of porridge. Bongo's bowl was empty. According to Zuri, Bongo had eaten very politely. She looked up when Aaliyah came in. Her whole face changed. Imo, she yelled. Imo, you slept so long. Aaliyah crossed the kitchen in 3 long strides. She lifted her niece into her arms and pressed her face into the soft, sweet curls of her hair. She had not breathed her in safely in 14 months. She felt Taehyun come into the kitchen behind her. She felt him stop in the doorway. She felt him watch them. She did not turn around. But she did not pull away from her niece either. She kept her face buried in Zuri's hair. She let him have the sight of it. The two of them. His daughter and his wife's twin. Holding each other in the kitchen in the morning light. After a long moment, Taehyun crossed quietly to the coffee pot and poured 2 cups. He did not ask how she took it. He set one of them on the counter beside her. As he did, the side of his hand brushed the side of hers. It was not deliberate. Or it was, in the way a man can decide, in the half-second between his hand reaching the counter and the cup leaving it, to take the slightly longer path. The path that touched. She did not pull her hand away. She glanced down at the cup. Black, no sugar. The way Simone had taken hers. The way she took hers. She did not say thank you out loud. She did not need to. At 9:43, 17 minutes before the deadline, Taehyun's phone rang. It's him. Aaliyah's hand moved to her hip. The Glock was there. She had put it on before coming downstairs. Speaker, she said. Mrs. On was already lifting Zuri off the stool with a soft murmur about going upstairs to find a new dress for the day. The kitchen was clear inside 10 seconds. Taehyun put the phone on the counter. He answered in Mandarin. The voice that came through was older. Cultured. Park. I am calling within the window your captain gave my driver. With 16 minutes to spare. I want to say to you on the record, in my own voice, the following. I did not authorize that message. The man who sent it is no longer in my employ as of 40 minutes ago. He is in a basement in Tianjin. He will not leave it. The contract on your wife is closed. Wang paused. Carter. I am told her name is Aaliyah Carter. Carter, this is Wang Jianhao. I am saying your name out loud, in my own voice, on the record. You have my personal guarantee of safety in any territory my organization touches, for the rest of your life. On my honor. On the bones of my mother. The men in this organization who are listening to this call will understand what I have just said. There will not be a second misunderstanding. Aaliyah did not look away from the phone the entire time he spoke. When Wang finished, she said, in flat, even Mandarin which Taehyun had not until that exact moment known she could speak. Wang. I have heard you. A small, surprised silence on the other end. Then Wang Jianhao laughed once, very quietly. The laugh of an old man who had just been reminded that he had grown careless about who in this profession was worth being careful around. Carter. Thank you. I will not make that error again. He switched back to Korean. Park. If you will permit me, I would like to come to your house at noon today. With the man who placed the device on the Mapo Bridge. Alive. With a confession. As you have asked. Bring him alive. Noon. My gate. Taehyun ended the call. For a long moment, neither of them said anything. Then Aaliyah said, Tianjin. He moved on the man inside his own house in less than an hour. Wang is not going to be a problem. No, he is not. You did not know I spoke Mandarin. I did not. I have been waiting for the right moment to mention it. For the first time in 14 months, Taehyun smiled. The full one. The one that started in his eyes and worked all the way down. The one Simone had once told him she would have married him for alone, even without the rest of him. Aaliyah Carter. What other things are you waiting for the right moment to mention? A great many, she said. We will get to them. Taehyun. I am not waiting upstairs while you take this meeting. I know. You will be on my right side. You will be armed. When Wang presents the man, the choice of what happens to him will be yours. Not mine. Yours. She blinked. She had been ready to argue. Why? Because you have earned every name on that list more than I have. Because my wife sent me a letter that said, trust my sister always. And because somewhere underneath all of this, Aaliyah, I have started to understand that you are not a problem I have to handle. You are a partner I have to listen to. And I would rather learn that lesson the easy way today than the hard way later. She nodded once. She did not trust herself to say anything else. She picked up her coffee and walked out of the kitchen toward the stairs to go and check her gun one more time. Wang Jianhao arrived at the gate of the Hanamdong compound at 12:07. He was a small, neat man in his late 50s. Round, pleasant face. Silver wire-rimmed glasses. A gray suit that had been tailored in Shanghai. He stepped out of his sedan with the careful smile of a man who had survived 4 decades in his profession by always knowing exactly which way the wind was blowing. Behind him came 12 bodyguards. All armed. All silent. All visibly nervous. And in the middle of them, hands bound in front of him with thick black plastic cuffs, walked a 13th man. He was Korean. 40-something. Lean. A small scar above his right eyebrow. He wore the dirty clothes of a man who had been kept in a basement for the last 6 hours. His face was bruised. One of his eyes was swollen shut. But he was walking on his own. And he knew exactly where he was. Minho met them at the gate. Mr. Wang, the boss is waiting for you in the receiving hall. Your men will surrender their weapons here. The prisoner comes inside. Wang inclined his head. He removed a small, beautiful pistol from his own jacket pocket and handed it over with both hands. Of course, young. Of course. The receiving hall of the Hanamdong compound had been built by Taehyun's grandfather in 1962. Dark walnut floors. Tall, narrow windows. 2 wing-backed leather chairs at the far end of the room. A single low table between them. No decorations. No softening. A room designed for one purpose, to make a guest understand exactly where he stood. Taehyun was seated in the right-hand chair when they came in. Aaliyah was not standing behind him. She was sitting beside him. In the left-hand chair. He had moved it himself. Half an hour earlier. While Minho's men were sweeping the perimeter and Mrs. On was upstairs braiding Zuri's hair into protective little plaits and humming a song from the 70s. Taehyun had walked into the receiving hall alone. He had looked at the single chair on the dais. He had thought about it for 10 seconds. And then he had gone to the storage room behind the hall, found the matching chair from the set his grandfather had originally ordered, and dragged it across the dark walnut floor himself, alone, until it sat squarely beside his own. Equal height, equal weight, equal claim. When Aaliyah had come down the stairs in her black turtleneck and dark jeans with the Glock at her hip and her hair finally loose around her shoulders for the first time since Osaka, she had walked into the hall, she had seen the second chair, and she had stopped walking. She had looked at him. He had looked back. Sit, he had said, with the same calm he used when giving an order to his men. She had sat. And neither of them had said another word about it. Wang Jianhao stopped halfway across the dark walnut floor. He was a professional. He had not survived 4 decades by failing to read a room. He saw the 2 chairs. He saw the 2 people in them. He saw the woman with his dead host's wife's face and a Glock 19 at her hip, sitting in equal authority beside the head of the Bikopa, and he revised every assumption he had brought with him in the space of a single blink. He bowed lower than he had bowed all morning. Park, he said. Carter. Thank you for receiving me. Sit, Taehyun said. Wang sat on the low stool that had been set out for him. The bound prisoner was pushed down onto his knees on the dark walnut floor between them. Wang glanced at him, then back at Taehyun and Aaliyah. As I said on the phone, the contract on your wife was a private matter funded by your own consigliere. My organization provided personnel. We did not provide oversight. The man kneeling before you placed the device on the bridge 14 months ago. He has been in our employ since 2019. He acted on Hwang Sung-min's payment and Hwang Sung-min's instructions. He did not know whose family he was working against until afterward. By then, the work was done. Wang spread his hands gently. I bring him to you as a gesture of good faith. The standing orders against the woman and the child have been rescinded. Across all my territories. There will be no further attempts. I give you my personal word. Taehyun studied him in silence. Then he looked at the prisoner. What is your name? The man on the floor swallowed. Lee Dong-hyuk. Lee Dong-hyuk. Did you place a bomb on the Mapo Bridge on the afternoon of October 14th, 14 months ago? Yes. Did you know that there was a woman in the car? A long pause. Yes. Did you know there was a child in the car seat behind her? Another pause. Longer. Yes. Beside him, Taehyun heard Aaliyah inhale once. Slow. Controlled. The breath of a soldier counting down from 10. Without looking at her, without ceremony, without thinking about it at all, he reached his hand across the small space between their chairs and laid it flat over the back of hers, where it had been resting, white-knuckled, on the leather armrest. Aaliyah did not look at him, but she did not pull her hand away. After a moment, she turned her hand over beneath his. Palm up. Her fingers slid loosely between his fingers. The grip was not romantic. The grip was not even gentle. It was the grip of 2 people holding each other still in a room where someone needed to be a witness and someone else needed to be a verdict. Taehyun tightened his fingers once. Just once. Then he let go and returned his hand to his own armrest. Aaliyah's hand stayed where he had left it. Palm up. Empty. Lee Dong-hyuk had not seen any of it. He was looking at the floor. You knew there was a baby in the car, Taehyun said. And you placed the bomb anyway. I was paid to, Lee Dong-hyuk said. His voice was hoarse. I had a family. My daughter needed surgery. I did not know it was your wife. I did not know it was your child. I only knew the time and the location and the car. I am sorry, Park. I am sorry. You're sorry, Taehyun said softly. Yes. Did you know, Taehyun said, that the child was not actually in the car? Lee Dong-hyuk looked up, confused. That body was not my daughter, Taehyun said. My daughter is upstairs. She is 3 years old. She has her mother's mouth. The body in that car was a little girl who had died of leukemia that morning. My wife paid her family for the body so that you, and the men who paid you, would believe my daughter was dead. She did this so that nobody would come hunting her afterward. Including you. Lee Dong-hyuk's bruised face had gone very still. My wife outwitted you, Taehyun said. She outwitted my consigliere. She outwitted Mr. Wang's entire organization. She did it in a single morning. Then she got into a car with the body of another woman's child, and she let you blow her up so that her daughter could live. She did all of this without telling me, because she had tried to tell me, and I had not listened. He paused. Do you understand what I am telling you, Lee Dong-hyuk? The bomber's swollen, I blinked once. She chose. She chose, Taehyun said. You did not kill a wife and a child. You killed a wife who had already saved her child. The mother you murdered was the most courageous person in this city. And the only person in this room who gets to decide what happens to you now is the woman sitting on my left. He turned slightly to look at Aaliyah. He is yours. Aaliyah stood up. She walked across the dark walnut floor and stopped in front of the kneeling man. She did not draw the Glock. She did not raise her voice. She crouched down, exactly the way she had crouched in front of Zuri in an Osaka alley 3 nights ago, so that her face was on the same level as his. My sister's name was Simone Carter, she said. She was 31 years old. She was a journalist. She was funny. She loved her husband. She loved her daughter more than her own life, which she gave for her. She had a small scar on her right wrist from a coffee burn when she was 8. She sang Nina Simone songs in the shower. She left her socks on the floor. She was my best friend. And the morning of October 14th, you took her from me. Lee Dong-hyuk was crying. Silently. His unswollen eye leaking down a dirty cheek. I have spent 14 months, Aaliyah said, imagining what I would do to you. I have planned it in 19 different beds in 7 different countries. I have rehearsed the words I would say. I have dreamed about the look on your face. There is a knife in my left boot right now that I bought in Seoul 14 months ago specifically for this conversation. She paused. I am not going to use it. Lee Dong-hyuk's good eye snapped open. My niece is 3 years old, Aaliyah said. She is upstairs. She does not yet know what happened to her mother. One day soon, she is going to ask me. And I am going to have to tell her the truth. And on that day, I want to be able to tell her that I did not become the kind of woman who would have horrified her mother. So I am not going to kill you, Lee Dong-hyuk. I want you to live. I want you to live a very long time. I want you to live with what you did to my sister. I want you to remember her name every single day until you die of old age. Simone Carter. Say it. Simone Carter, he whispered. Again. Simone Carter. Every day, Aaliyah said. For the rest of your life. Out loud. So she is not forgotten. She stood up. She turned to Wang Jianhao. Mr. Wang. You said you owe my sister's husband a debt of good faith. Wang inclined his head carefully. Yes, Carter. Then this is the debt. This man is going to disappear into the most remote facility your organization owns. He is going to spend the rest of his life there. He will be fed. He will be kept alive. He will be visited every year on October 14th by a member of your organization who will say my sister's name to him and confirm that he has said it every day for the past year. If he ever stops saying it, if he ever escapes, if he ever dies before his time, the debt is not paid, and Park Taehyun and I will come for your house. Wang Jianhao looked at her for a long moment. Then he bowed deeper than he had bowed all morning. It will be done, Carter. On my honor. On the bones of my mother. It will be done. Aaliyah walked back to her chair. She did not sit. She put her hand on Taehyun's shoulder, briefly, on her way past. The contact lasted maybe 2 seconds. It was the first time she had touched him on purpose. Then she stepped behind his chair, exactly as a partner would, and stood waiting for him to finish. Taehyun did not allow his face to change. But underneath his suit jacket, where her hand had rested for 2 seconds, his shoulder was very warm. "Take him away," he said to Minho. "And see Mr. Wang to the gate." 2 of Minho's men stepped forward. They lifted Lee Dong-hyuk under the arms. They walked him out of the receiving hall without a word. And the bomber was crying the whole way. And he was whispering over and over the only 2 words he was going to be allowed to say for the rest of his life. Simone Carter. Simone Carter. Simone Carter. Pause. Pause. Did Aaliyah really sit in front of the man who killed her sister with a knife in her boot she had bought specifically for this moment and choose to make him say her name every single day for the rest of his life? Did this woman just turn a bomber into a living memorial? If you are not screaming, you are not paying attention. Smash that like button. The next chapter is when something starts. She woke up at 1:47 a.m. on the 3rd night. She had heard something. A sound she had heard before, in the basements of houses she had hidden in across 3 continents. Made by mothers who had lost children. By people who had been holding something in for too long. It was somebody in this house, somewhere down the hall, weeping. Quietly. Carefully. The way a man weeps who has been trained, since he was a small boy, never to weep where anyone could see him. Aaliyah got out of bed. She put on her sleep robe. She did not put on her gun. Whatever was happening was not the kind of thing a gun could fix. She walked, on bare feet, down the cold cypress hallway, toward the small East Wing nursery, whose door had been opened that morning for the first time in 14 months. The door was ajar. A soft amber light came through the gap. Through the gap she could see, on the floor of the small sage-green room, Park Taehyun. He was sitting against the side of the empty crib. His suit jacket was off. His tie was loose. In his hands, held very gently, the way you hold a thing you are afraid of damaging, was a small framed photograph of a woman in a white wedding dress, laughing, with her veil caught in the wind. He was talking to her. Most of it was the same handful of words, repeated and repeated and repeated, in the soft, broken voice of a man who had been holding them in for 14 months. "I'm sorry, my love. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I'm sorry, Simone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Aaliyah's hand had come up to her mouth. She walked into the nursery. He looked up. He saw her in the doorway in her sleep robe. Her hair loose. Her eyes wet. His face did not change. He did not turn his face away. He did not recover. He just looked at her, the way a man looks at the only person in the world who, possibly, was allowed to walk in on this. Aaliyah crossed the room slowly. She did not speak. She lowered herself onto the cypress floor beside him, just close enough that the side of her arm was a few inches from the side of his. She did not say it was not his fault. She did not say her sister would have forgiven him. She did, after a long minute, put her own open hand on the cypress floor between them. Palm up. It was the careful, unspeaking offer of a woman who had not let anyone hold her hand in 14 months and was, suddenly, in a soft amber room at 2 in the morning, very tired of carrying her grief alone. Taehyun looked at her hand. He looked at it for a long, long second. Then, slowly, he set the framed photograph down on the floor on the other side of him. Carefully. Face up. So Simone could see. He turned back. He laid his open hand on top of hers. Their fingers did not lace. He simply rested the warm flat weight of his palm on top of her palm. Her hand stayed exactly where it had been. Open. Holding nothing. Holding everything. They stayed like that for a long time. After a while, when the worst of it had passed, he turned his face toward her. Aaliyah. I know. I don't. I know. He closed his eyes. He did not say I love you that night. She did not say it either. But somewhere in the soft amber dark of an empty nursery, on the cypress floor of a house above the Han River, with a small framed photograph of a dead woman watching from a few inches away, 2 people who had each, separately, decided in the last 14 months that they were not going to let anyone in again, found, very gently, without speaking, that they had let each other in anyway. Their hearts, in the soft amber dark, did the thing that hearts very rarely do without being asked first. They accepted each other. She walked him back to his bedroom at 3 in the morning. She squeezed his hand once, very quickly, and let go. She slept the way she had slept on his chair on the morning she had first walked into his house, without a single dream, and she woke in the morning, again, sad. Because, again, she had not realized, until she woke up, that she had felt something she had not let herself feel in 14 months. Safe. 3 weeks slipped by. They settled into a rhythm. Mrs. On cooked breakfast. Taehyun took his calls in the morning study. Aaliyah played with Zuri in the garden. They were extremely careful. They did not touch each other again. Not once. They moved through the same rooms with the precise, mannered choreography of two people who had agreed without speaking that they were not yet allowed to want anything from each other. Mrs. On watched all of this from her station in the kitchen with the patient, amused expression of a woman who had been running this household for 40 years and had seen exactly this kind of careful before. She did not say anything. Mrs. On knew how to wait. On a soft golden afternoon in late October, the kind of afternoon that comes only twice a year in Seoul, Park Taehyun, Aaliyah Carter, and Park Zuri walked together up the steep stone path of the cemetery on the side of the mountain in Yongin. Zuri held both their hands. She wore a small black coat that Mrs. On had ordered for her. White tights. Black patent leather shoes. Her curly hair had been carefully braided into 2 even plaits with small white bows at the ends. She held a single white camellia flower in her free hand, the one not occupied by Bongo. Taehyun wore the same midnight black suit he had worn for 14 months of public mourning. But the tie today was not black. The tie today was the deep red of a camellia blossom. Aaliyah had picked it out for him that morning. She had simply pulled it from the back of his closet, walked across his bedroom, and held it out to him. He had let her loop it around his neck. He had let her tie the knot. Her hands had been very steady. His had not been. Aaliyah wore a soft black dress that fell to her ankles. Her hair was down. Her natural curls fell in a dark cloud around her shoulders. She looked, in the soft golden afternoon light, almost exactly like her sister. Taehyun, walking up the path beside her, had stopped trying to pretend he was not noticing that. He did not, however, allow himself to look too long. They reached the grave at 4:15. It was a simple stone. Polished black granite, set into the earth on a small terrace overlooking the city. The name read, Simone Carter Park. Beloved wife. Beloved mother. Beloved sister. Beneath that, in smaller letters, in English, she chose. Taehyun had ordered the new inscription added the day after the meeting with Wang. The original headstone had carried both his wife's name and his daughter's. He had paid the stonemason quietly to remove Zuri's name and replace it with the line his wife deserved. Zuri stepped forward. She placed the white camellia flower on the polished black stone. Then she put her tiny hand on the headstone, gently, the way she had put her hand on Taehyun's cheek in the gravel driveway 3 weeks ago. Hi, Yama, she said softly. It's me. I came back. Just like you said. Aaliyah made a small sound and turned her face away. Taehyun reached out and took her hand. She did not pull it back. This time, neither of them pretended it was nothing. They stood together for a long time. The wind moved softly through the maple trees on the slope below them. Some of the leaves had already turned red and gold. The city of Seoul spread out far below, hazy and golden in the late afternoon light. The Han River curved through it like a silver ribbon. After a while, Zuri sat down cross-legged in front of the grave. She arranged Bongo carefully in her lap. She began telling her mother, in very serious detail, about the goldfish in Appa's pond, about how Imo had taught her how to do up her own buttons, about the new sage green color in her bedroom. Taehyun and Aaliyah stood a few steps back, hand in hand, listening. She talks to her every day, Aaliyah said quietly. At the grave or at home. I told her she could. Good. I told her one day she would tell me what Yama said back. And we would write it down. Taehyun was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Aaliyah. Yes. Stay. She turned her head slowly to look at him. Taehyun. Stay, he said. Not for a few months until things settle. Not as her aunt who is helping. Stay. In this house. With us. Build a life here. Take a year. Take 10 years. Take however long it takes you to be ready to do whatever you want to do with your life next. But do it from this house. With this child. With me. Aaliyah did not answer for a long time. She looked down at Zuri, sitting cross-legged in front of her mother's grave, telling her dead mother about a goldfish. Taehyun, she said quietly. I have her face. I know. I cannot be her. I am not asking you to be her. Then what are you asking? He turned, slowly, until he was facing her properly. He let go of her hand. He took both of her hands instead, in both of his. He held them at the level of their chests. I am asking you to let me see you, he said. Not the shape of the woman I lost. You, Aaliyah Carter. The woman who walked into a rain-soaked alley 3 nights ago with a gun for a child who is not even hers by blood. The woman who sat in front of my wife's killer and chose mercy because Simone would have wanted her to. The woman who, for 14 months, fought a war alone that no one had asked her to fight. You are not your sister, Aaliyah. You are not her replacement. You are not her ghost. You are the woman she chose to give her daughter to. That is its own kind of love. That is its own kind of name. I am asking you to let that name be more than a name, eventually. Whenever you are ready. In a year. In 5. In 10. I am not in a hurry. I have already spent 14 months waiting for things I did not understand I was waiting for. I can wait for the rest of them. But I want you to know what you would be choosing if you chose it. You would not be choosing a man who is comparing you to his dead wife. You would be choosing a man who has already met you, who has already started, against his own will, to love the parts of you that have nothing to do with her face. Your laugh, the way you stand, the way you talk to my daughter, the way you set your boots beside the bed instead of on it, the way you held my hand in the receiving hall without looking at me because you knew I needed to be held still, and you also knew I needed it not to be a thing. Those are not Simone things, Aaliyah. Those are you things. And I have spent 3 weeks pretending I could keep them in a separate room from the rest of my heart. And I cannot do it anymore. I am tired, Aaliyah. I am very tired. I am asking you to stay so that I can stop pretending. Aaliyah's eyes were very full. She did not, however, cry. She had told Taehyun 3 weeks ago that one day she was going to cry, and when it happened it would be at Mrs. An. She intended to keep that promise. She let go of one of his hands. She lifted hers and rested it, very gently, against the side of his face. I will stay, she said quietly. I will stay, Park Taehyun. Not as her. Not as anyone else. Just as me. He closed his eyes for a moment. Thank you. And one more thing. Yes. You said you have already started to love the parts of me that have nothing to do with her face. Yes. I have already started, too, she said. And nothing about it has anything to do with the fact that you are her husband. It is who you are when you sit very still in a chair at 6 in the morning and watch over a woman who is not yet anything to you because she is too tired to keep her eyes open. That is the man I have started to love. So when I am ready, when we are both ready, I want you to remember it was him, not the rest of it. Taehyun did not speak for a long moment. Then, very gently, he leaned down and pressed his forehead against hers. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just the soft, deliberate weight of his forehead against hers, the way two people in a serious conversation might rest against each other to confirm that the conversation had been heard. His hand came up. He brushed a single dark curl back from her temple with his thumb. He let his hand stay there, the flat of his palm against the side of her jaw. Aaliyah's eyes closed. She let her own hand slide up the inside of his wrist. She held it there, not pulling him toward her, not pushing him away, simply confirming, with the quiet pressure of her fingers. Then Zuri's voice, behind them, said brightly, Yama, Appa is hugging Imo. Taehyun let out a single startled laugh. Aaliyah did too. They stepped apart, not far, and turned to look at the small girl sitting in front of her mother's grave with a stuffed rabbit and a great deal of news to share. Yes, Zuri, Taehyun said, his voice catching. Tell Yama. Tell her Appa is hugging Imo. Tell her Appa is going to need to get better at it because he is out of practice. Tell her Imo is going to teach him. Zuri solemnly turned back to the grave. Yama, she informed the polished black stone. Appa is hugging Imo. He is going to get better at it. Imo is going to teach him. And the wind moved gently through the maple trees on the slope below them. And perhaps somewhere very far away, a woman with long curly dark locks and no scar on her jaw smiled. The leaves came down. The morning sharpened into the cold blue clarity of late autumn. The house settled into the season. Slow looked mostly like this. In the mornings, Taehyun made her coffee before he made his own. She, in return, learned that he hated his eggs runny. That he took his tea bitter, no honey. In the evenings, they read in the library. She had pulled down a worn paperback of Beloved by Toni Morrison her first night and started working her way through it, 10 pages at a time. He had been rereading the same Korean translation of the brothers Karamazov he had been reading the night Simone died, and which he had not been able to open since. He was on page 87. He was reading 3 pages a night. It was, he thought sometimes, the most slowly he had ever read a book. It was also the happiest he had been since he had been a boy. On the 4th Sunday, it rained. The slow, gentle, all-day rain that comes in late November and tells the city to stop running. Aaliyah came into the library at 2 in the afternoon, carrying 2 mugs of hot chocolate that Mrs. On had pressed into her hands. Mrs. On says we have to drink them while it is raining. She did not say why. She does not need to, Taehyun said. Mrs. On has been waiting for me to drink hot chocolate in the library while it rained, with someone, for a long time. Aaliyah laughed. She set the mugs on the small table between their chairs. She did not, however, sit in her own chair. She sat on the wide arm of his. She did it lightly, casually, the way she might have sat on a low wall. Taehyun did not move for a long second. Then, slowly, he let his book close. He set it on the side table. He turned his face up to look at her. She was looking down at him with the small, careful smile of a woman who had thought about doing exactly this for 9 days and had finally, on a quiet Sunday in November, decided to do it. His hand came up. It went, instinctively, to her hip, steadying her on the arm of the chair. Then his hand slid, very slowly, up the line of her waist, following the shape of her. He let it come to rest, finally, at the small of her back. Her own hand came down, slowly, and rested on his shoulder. They looked at each other in the rain-gray light. Then Aaliyah, very quietly said, "Are you ever going to kiss me, Park Taehyun?" His eyes closed for 1 second. "I have been thinking about it for 31 days. She laughed quietly. And I have been waiting for you to be ready." She slid down off the arm of the chair and into his lap. The way a woman settles into a man whose patience had, for 1 whole month, been the most serious gift anyone had ever given her. His arms came up around her. He kissed her. Slowly, deliberately, with his full attention. With one hand at the back of her head and the other low at her waist. She kissed him back. She kissed him like a woman who had been holding her own face still for 2 years and had just finally been told she did not have to. Outside, the November rain kept falling. December came in cold. The first snow fell on the 7th in soft flat flakes. Zuri had never seen snow before. She stood in the doorway of the back terrace in her small lavender boots and her enormous wool hat with the barriers, and she said, in a voice of total reverence, "Imo. Appa. The sky is broken." Aaliyah laughed so hard she cried. Taehyun picked his daughter up and let her catch flakes on her tongue. He laughed too, the way a man laughs when he has remembered something he had forgotten he was allowed to do. It had been, for 10 days, the most peaceful December he had ever known. Minho was the one who broke it. He came into the morning study on the 17th of December at 9:42 a.m. Boss, there was a name on Wang's list that we missed. Taehyun set down his coffee. How did we miss a name? Cho Jinwoo, 46 years old. Former Army Special Forces. Hwang Sung-min's chief enforcer for 11 years. He has been in hiding in Busan for the last 14 months. He boarded a private boat at 4 a.m. this morning. He has paid a delivery driver to bring him through our perimeter at 12:30. He is coming here. For what? For Zuri, sir. He has been radicalized. He has stated in writing that he intends to die today, and to take her with him. Taehyun stood up. He walked to the window. He looked down at the courtyard. Aaliyah was there in her long dark coat, helping Zuri build a small uneven snowman beside the koi pond. Mrs. On was watching from the back terrace. He was looking at the most peaceful thing he had built in 14 months. And someone was driving toward it with a death warrant. Time: 2 hours and 43 minutes. Bring me Aaliyah. Triple the perimeter. Mrs. On takes Zuri to the panic room at 12 sharp. I want him stopped at the outer checkpoint, but I do not want him captured. I want him to come inside this house. He came here to die, Minho. I am going to oblige him on my floor. With Aaliyah beside me. Mine. In the hallway between the staircase and the war room door, he stopped her. He took her face in both his hands. He kissed her. It was not a romantic kiss. It was the kiss a man gives a woman before he walks her into a room where one of them might, technically, possibly, not be walking out. When he pulled back, he kept his forehead against hers. Aaliyah. He came for our daughter. I know. Do you want to be in the hallway with me? Or in the panic room with her? Taehyun. If I am in the hallway with you, she has a much higher chance of coming out of this with all of us. We do this together. He closed his eyes for a second. All right. And Taehyun. Yes. After. When this is over. You are taking me to bed. Properly. Not as practice. Not as slow. Tonight. Do you understand me? He had thought slow was going to be a year-long project. She had just collapsed 8 months of that plan into a single sentence. Yes. I understand you. She unholstered her Glock. She press-checked the chamber. She holstered it again. She tied her hair back into the tight bun she had stopped wearing 3 weeks ago and had, this morning, retied without thinking, the way a hand reaches for a tool. The soldier was back. Just for the next 90 minutes. At 12:31 p.m., Cho Jinwoo's black panel van came up the South Service Road. The van rolled into the courtyard. It stopped. Cho Jinwoo stepped out of the back, in full tactical gear, with 3 other men behind him, all armed, all in black. He saw the inner courtyard he had visited as a guest 40 times in his life. The koi pond. The cypress trees. He saw the half-built snowman beside the pond. The little snowman with the lopsided body and the 2 raisins for eyes that a 3-year-old had built that morning. He saw it. He registered it. He did not stop walking. Cho Jinwoo was past saving. They breached the back door at 12:33. The first floor had been emptied. Mrs. On was already in the panic room with Zuri, the stuffed rabbit, 3 storybooks, a flask of hot chocolate, and a small, wickedly sharp paring knife she had quietly slipped into her apron pocket and had not told anyone about. Cho came through the back door. His 3 men came in behind him. The plan, presumably, was to clear the ground floor, find the child, take her, and end it on the back terrace. The plan did not survive contact. Aaliyah took the first man. She came around the corner of the kitchen island, low and fast, and put 2 rounds in his chest. His vest absorbed both. He staggered. She put the 3rd round through his unprotected throat. He went down. The second man fired wildly, panicking. He hit the kitchen wall. He hit the rice cooker. He did not hit Aaliyah. Taehyun took the second man from the dining room doorway. 1 round. Through the cheekbone. Center mass would have hit the vest. The 3rd man pulled back into the foyer, using the wall as cover. He had a clear line of fire down the center hallway. He waited. He heard, behind him, the very soft sound of a Beretta being cocked. He turned. Taehyun shot him through the back of the head before he had finished turning around. That left Cho. Cho Jinwoo was in the central hallway. He was alone. His 3 men were dead in 3 different rooms in less than 90 seconds. He understood, the way professionals understand, that the operation had failed. He had 2 remaining objectives. The first was to get to the panic room. The second was to die well. He started walking. He moved down the hall the way Special Forces had taught him to move 20 years ago. Tight to one wall. Weapon up. He realized, halfway down the hall, that Park Taehyun was standing in the doorway at the far end. And that Taehyun was not raising his weapon. Taehyun was simply standing, watching him. Cho stopped walking. He raised his rifle. He aimed at Taehyun's chest. He felt, in the next half-second, the cold metal circle of a Glock 19 press, very precisely, against the soft hollow at the base of his skull. Aaliyah's voice, behind him, was very calm. Drop the rifle, Cho. He did not drop the rifle. He smiled. Tell me, Carter. Did your sister die screaming? I have wondered for 14 months. Was it quick? Or did she? She fired. She did not let him finish the sentence. The round went through the base of his skull and out through his open mouth. Cho was dead before his rifle hit the floor. The hallway was very quiet. Then she lowered the Glock. Her left thigh was bleeding. The second man's wild shots had not all missed. One of them had caught her on the outer thigh, low a long, deep graze, bleeding steadily down the dark fabric of her tactical pants and onto the cypress floor. She had not noticed until Cho was on the floor. She noticed now. The Glock dipped slightly in her hand. Taehyun. He was already moving. He covered the 60 feet of hallway in less time than she would have thought possible. He caught her around the waist as her leg buckled. I'm okay. It's a graze. It's not arterial. I know. I can see. Sit. I have you. He lowered her, gently, against the wall. He pulled his belt off and looped it around her thigh above the wound. To compress. To slow it. His hands were shaking. She laughed once. A weak laugh. Your hands are shaking. I am aware of my hands, Aaliyah. Take me upstairs, she said. Please. Don't let Zuri come out and see this. He bent down and lifted her into his arms. He carried her the entire length of the hallway, past the bodies and the cypress floor and the small rivulet of blood she had left, up the central staircase and into his bedroom. The master suite. The room she had not yet been into. He laid her down on the bed. His hands were still shaking. I'm calling the doctor. Stay here. Aaliyah. I won't move. I love you. I know. I have not said it before. I know that too. Taehyun. Call the doctor. He called the doctor. Dr. Jiwon was 61 years old, 4 feet 11 inches tall, and the woman who had delivered Taehyun on a snowy Tuesday in March 1986 on the floor of his parents' bedroom because the ambulance had not made it through the storm. She arrived in 12 minutes. She walked into Taehyun's bedroom with her bag, took one look at Aaliyah on the bed and at Taehyun standing rigidly beside her, snapped on a pair of nitrile gloves, and said in flat Korean, Sit on the chair, Taehyun. Out of my light. Hold her hand. Do not speak. He sat in the chair. He held Aaliyah's hand. He did not speak. The wound took 22 stitches. When Dr. Jiwon was done, she peeled off her gloves and looked from Aaliyah to Taehyun and back. You will not run on it for 10 days. The stitches come out in 12 days. Then, quieter, in English with a nod toward Aaliyah, Welcome to this house, Carter. It is past time. She picked up her bag. She walked out. The bedroom was, at last, quiet. Taehyun did not move from the chair. For a long time, neither of them said anything. Aaliyah turned her head on the pillow. She looked at him. Hey, come here. He came. He kicked his shoes off without thinking about it. He sat down on the edge of the bed beside her. Carefully. She took his hand. You said something earlier. Yes. Say it again. He looked at her. Aaliyah Carter, I love you. She exhaled slowly. Park Taehyun. I love you. He bent down. He kissed her forehead, her cheek, her jaw, the small silver scar there. He kissed the tear that was, very quietly, working its way down the side of her face. You are crying, he said. I told you. I told you a long time ago. I would cry one of these days. Was it supposed to be at Mrs. On? It was. I am going to have to apologize to her. He laughed once, very quietly. He held her, very gently, on the side that was not stitched. Will you sleep here tonight? She looked around the bedroom slowly. The cedar smell. The chandelier. The crack in the molding. The bed she was already lying on. The man sitting on the edge of it with his hand on hers. Yes, she said. I will sleep here tonight. By 11 p.m., the house was quiet again. Taehyun came back to the bedroom. Aaliyah was awake, propped up on 3 pillows, wearing one of his old white t-shirts that Mrs. On had quietly produced from somewhere. He climbed into the bed beside her, carefully on the side away from the wound. He slid one arm under her shoulders so she could rest her head on it. She did. She was asleep within 90 seconds. He stayed awake for a long time. He thought, very simply, the same thought, over and over again. She is here. She is here. She is here. This time, he knew exactly who he meant. Spring came in slowly that year. The cherry trees on the south side of the compound bloomed in the 3rd week of March. Zuri turned 4 in February. Mrs. On quietly redirected the laundry rotation around the new geometry. 2 breakfast settings. 1 bedroom. 3 pairs of small shoes in the foyer. In May, Zuri started preschool. She held both their hands all the way to the gate of the school, then let go of them, very carefully, 1 finger at a time, and ran inside without looking back. Aaliyah cried. Taehyun had to physically support her with 1 arm around her shoulders for the entire walk back to the car. In June, on a Sunday morning, he asked her to marry him. He had been planning it for 4 months. The ring had been in his bedside drawer since February. The right moment, in his head, was going to involve the cherry trees, or possibly a sunset over the Han River, or possibly the small stone bench by the koi pond where he had asked her to stay 7 months ago. Instead, what happened was this. It was a Sunday morning in early June. They were on the back terrace, drinking coffee. Zuri, who was now 4.5 and refused to wear anything that was not pink, was sitting on the floor in a pink tutu over her pink pajamas, conducting a very detailed conversation with Bongo. Aaliyah was wearing one of Taehyun's old white t-shirts. She had, 3 minutes earlier, reached across the table and stolen the second half of his pastry without asking. He had let her. He had, in fact, quietly shifted the plate closer to her hand to make it easier. She caught him watching her. She looked up. Pastry crumbs on her fingers. What? He set down his coffee. Aaliyah, marry me. She did not move for 1 full second. Then her eyes filled. Park Taehyun. It is a Sunday morning. I know it is a Sunday morning. I had a plan. The plan involved a sunset and the koi pond. The plan has failed me. You stole my pastry. I cannot wait anymore. She wiped her eyes with the inside of her wrist. She was laughing. You are doing it wrong, you know. You are supposed to have the ring with you. I will go upstairs and get it. Hold this thought. I will not hold this thought. Sit down. Park Taehyun. Yes. Yes. I will marry you. Yes. He stood up. He kissed her hard on the back terrace in front of Zuri and Bongo and Mrs. On, who had appeared in the doorway with a tray of breakfast and stopped dead and was now openly weeping. When he pulled back, Zuri was on her feet. Her small face was very serious. Appa, did you ask Imo to marry you? I did. Did she say yes? She did. Zuri considered this for a very long second. Then she said, good. I have been waiting. And she went back to her conversation with Bongo. They married in October. In the garden of the Hanamdong compound, on a soft golden afternoon at the end of the month, exactly 1 year and 3 days after Aaliyah had walked through the gate at 2 in the morning with a 3-year-old in a too big purple coat. It was a small wedding. 11 guests. Mrs. An was the first person to begin crying that day at approximately 7 a.m. while she was ironing the silk sash that would tie around Aaliyah's waist. Wang Jianhao had sent flowers. White lilies, 3 dozen, with a card written in his careful hand, "On my honor. On the bones of my mother. Be well, Park. Be well, Carter." The man you spared continues, every day, to say her name. Zuri was the flower girl. She wore a small white silk dress with a wreath of white camellia blossoms in her hair. She walked very seriously down the aisle of soft cream rose petals, carrying Bongo, who was wearing a very small white silk bow tie that Taehyun had knotted himself at 6 a.m. that morning. Aaliyah came out onto the terrace at 4 p.m. exactly. She wore a long, simple ivory dress. Bare shoulders. Her hair was loose. She wore one small silver pin in her hair that had once belonged to her sister. Taehyun was already at the camellia tree at the end of the garden. He saw her come out onto the terrace. He stopped breathing for a moment. The Buddhist monk asked them to speak. Taehyun went first. Aaliyah Carter. I have loved one woman in my life before you. She gave me a daughter. She gave me her last morning. She gave me you. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you deserve to find at the end of 14 months of running. I will not always succeed. I will sometimes fail. When that happens, I am asking you, in front of these 11 people, to be honest with me about it. From the beginning, without preparing for the worst. The way you promised to be on a stone wall by a koi pond the morning after we killed a man together. That is the only vow I am asking you for. The rest I will earn. Every day, until I die. Aaliyah spoke. Park Taehyun. I came to your gate at 2 in the morning, 4 nights into a 14-month war. I expected a stranger. I expected a danger. I did not expect a man who would sit very still in a chair at 6 in the morning and watch over a woman who was not yet anything to him. I did not expect a man who would drag a chair across his own grandfather's hall, alone, so that I would have somewhere to sit beside him. She paused. She looked briefly over his shoulder at the small white camellia tree his grandfather had planted 70 years ago that had bloomed for them today, exactly on time. There is a woman I share a face with who is not here, she said. She gave me everything I have, including you. So what I want to promise you, in front of these 11 people, is this. I will love you the way she would have loved you if she had been allowed to keep loving you. I will love our daughter the way she would have loved her. But I will love you both as me, not as her shadow, not as her replacement, as Aaliyah Carter, who chose you twice, once at her grave, and once today. The Buddhist monk lifted his hands. He blessed them. Then he bowed, and Park Taehyun bent and kissed his wife. And Mrs. An, in the front row, finally let out the small, broken, joyful sound she had been holding in for 1 year and 3 days. That night, very late, when the 11 guests had all gone home, and the garden was quiet and Zuri was asleep in her sage green room with her wreath of camellias still around the bedpost, Aaliyah crossed the room slowly, in her wedding dress and her bare feet. And she stopped in front of Taehyun. She put her hands on his chest. Park Taehyun. Yes, Mrs. Park. That is the first time you have called me that. I am going to call you that for the rest of my life. Good. She kissed him. It was the kiss of a wife. It was the long, certain, unhurried kiss of a woman who had finally arrived somewhere she was not going to leave. The years that followed were good ones. Aaliyah moved her things properly into Taehyun's bedroom the following spring. Mrs. An quietly redirected the laundry rotation. Nobody mentioned it. Zuri grew up bilingual and brilliant, with her mother's wit and her father's stillness and her aunt's quiet, unkillable courage, both her aunts. The one in the small black and white photograph on the foyer wall and the one who tucked her in every night until she was 10 years old and never stopped braiding her hair on Sunday mornings until the day she left for university. She studied journalism at Yonsei. Her senior thesis was about a woman she had never gotten to know. She graduated with honors. She called Taehyun Appa for the rest of his life. She called Aaliyah Imo for the rest of hers. And only one woman, in the small black and white photographs on the foyer wall, was ever called Yama. That had been Aaliyah's first request. Taehyun had never argued with it. On October 14th, every single year, the family visited a small grave on a hillside in Yongin. On that same day, every single year, in a remote facility in the western mountains of Sichuan province, an elderly Korean man with a small scar above his right eyebrow was visited in his cell by a polite young woman who wrote down 2 words in her ledger and then left. The 2 words were always the same. Simone Carter. The man said them every day. He said them in the morning when he woke, and in the evening when he could not sleep, and once in the small hours of the night when the only sound in the cell was his own breathing. He said them the way men say prayers quietly, without thinking, and absolutely. Then, one quiet afternoon, the man died. He had been thinking, that morning, about the woman whose name he had said every day for as long as he could remember. He had been thinking about how her sister had chosen to let him live, and how he had spent the rest of his years trying, in the small ways available to a man kept in a cell, to be worthy of that mercy. He said the name one last time, in the quiet of the cell. Simone Carter. He closed his eyes. He did not open them again. In the corner of a garden 3,000 kilometers away, at the exact moment those 2 words left a dying man's mouth in a Sichuan cell, the small white camellia tree planted in tribute to a woman with long curly dark locks and no scar on her jaw bloomed. It had been bare-branched a moment earlier. It was now heavy with red. Out of season. In the middle of winter. Impossible. Mrs. An was at the kitchen window. She was washing a single teacup. Her hair had gone completely white some years ago. Her hands moved more slowly than they had in her youth. A polished wooden cane that Taehyun had carved for her on her 80th birthday leaned against the sink within reach. But her eyes, the eyes that had watched generations of this family come and go, were still sharp enough to see, through the kitchen window, in the exact second it happened. The small white camellia tree at the far corner of the garden put out red blossoms in the bare cold. She set the teacup down very carefully on the drying rack. She put on her coat. She took up her cane. And she walked, slowly, across the courtyard, past the koi pond, past the cypress trees, to the corner of the garden where the small white camellia tree stood with its red impossible blossoms heavy in the cold. She stopped in front of it. She looked up at the blossoms for a long, long second. Then she bowed. Once. Slowly. The way an old woman bows to welcome an old friend home after a very long time apart. When she straightened, she placed one wrinkled hand, gently, against the trunk of the tree. "Welcome home, my child," she said softly. That was all. She turned. Across the cold courtyard, on the back terrace, 2 figures were standing. Taehyun was older now. His hair was completely silver. He wore a heavy wool coat over his pajamas. He had been watching her for a long time. He had not interrupted. He had simply waited, the way he had learned, very long ago, to wait for the women in his life to finish the conversations they needed to have. Aaliyah was beside him. Her own hair was streaked with silver. She wore one of his old wool sweaters over her nightclothes. Her arm was around his waist. His arm was around her shoulders. They were leaning into each other, the way 2 people lean who had spent the better part of a lifetime learning that the other was always going to be there. They looked at the old woman across the courtyard. She lifted her hand. They lifted theirs. Taehyun bent his head and pressed a slow kiss into the silver streak at Aaliyah's temple. She did not look at him when he did it. She did not need to. She simply tightened her arm at his waist and turned her face up toward his for one quiet second, the way she had been turning her face up toward his every morning for many, many years. Then she let go of him. She came down the back steps, slowly, with a small wisp of steam rising from a cup of hot barley tea in her hands. She met Mrs. An beside the koi pond. She handed her the tea. She took her arm. And the two of them walked, slowly, side by side, back across the gravel toward the warm yellow light of the kitchen, where Taehyun had already crossed to the back door and was holding it open for them both. The way he had been holding doors for both of them for a very long time, with the patient, unshowy, every morning love of a man who had been given a life he had not, 14 months into the worst year of his existence, believed he was going to be allowed to have. He held the door. They went in. Behind them, the wind moved softly through the branches of the small camellia tree. The red blossoms shifted gently in the cold. And somewhere very far away, a woman with long curly dark locks and no scar on her jaw was, finally, allowed to rest. The end. So, besties, that's the story. That's all of it. Park Taehyun got his daughter back. Aaliyah Carter got to sleep in a safe house for the first time in 14 months. Simone Carter got the inscription she deserved. The man who killed her said her name every day for the rest of his life. The hand on the cypress floor of the nursery at 2 in the morning. The forehead pressed against the forehead under the camellia tree. The bullet she put through the throat of the man who came for her daughter. The pastry he let her steal on a Sunday morning in June. The wedding in the garden. The camellia that bloomed at the exact moment a dying man said her name one last time. All of it. If this story moved you, even a little, please do me one small favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you are not already. Turn on notifications because the next story is coming faster than you think. Share this video with one person you love. Just one. Tell them it is long. Tell them to make tea. Tell them to settle in. Because the best stories are the ones that take their time. And in the comments, tell me, could you do what Aaliyah did? Could you sit in front of the man who killed your sister and choose to make him say her name for the rest of his life instead of ending him? Could you walk into another man's house with his dead wife's face on your bones and let him love you anyway? Could you stay, even when staying is the harder thing? I want to know what you would do. I want to know what you would have chosen. Tell me where you are watching from. Tell me which moment broke you. Tell me if it was the chair he dragged across his grandfather's hall. Tell me if it was the line about the pastry. Tell me if it was Mrs. on at the camellia. Tell me everything. I read every single one. Thank you for being here. For the full ride. For staying with these people through the rain and the gun and the bridge and the bourbon and the camellia tree. They were not real. But for some minutes, you let them be. That is the gift you give a storyteller. And I do not take it lightly. Until the next one, besties. Be gentle with the people you love. Tell them out loud. Don't make them earn it. And if you ever see a camellia blooming out of season, say hello to whoever sent it.